Okay, hello everyone. Today I want to make a presentation, small presentation on the literature review, on the use of Harvard style referencing and the use of Mendeley referencing software. Okay, let's just begin. Hopefully it will be useful for you. Okay, literature review. What is literature review? Literature review is a piece of writing where you review different information sources. It could be articles, it could be books, it could be policy briefs, so any other sources of information. You review that, and based on that you group it and you write it. How you write it, it largely depends on the objectives of the literature review. It could get really complicated if you're writing for, let's say, an academic article, or if you're conducting a systematic literature review. It could get really complex. But if you are writing a literature review with intention just to provide some background information on something, then it's much simpler. Today I just want to touch a few points on what is it you need to reference in your literature review. Basically, you will need to provide a reference to any relevant key argument, key concept. If you're providing some statistical information, you will need to back it up with the reference as well. So if you're taking something from somewhere else, you're making that argument or statement, then you need to support it with the reference. Yeah, so the reader will need to know where that information is coming from. If you're writing about something of a secondary importance, or if something represents just a general knowledge, then it is up to the researcher typically just to include it or not. But if it is important to the topic that you're writing, then it has to be included. Plagiarism. Plagiarism is another point I want to mention. Some researchers just find certain relevant information and copy and paste it and present it as if it is their own work, which is not ethical, and it is actually a theft of intellectual property. It is something that I highly discourage you from doing. So if you take that information, make sure that you provide a reference to the place where you took it from. If it's an article, just make a reference to the article. If it's a website, just put a website as a reference. The other thing I want to say, it's about the structure. So there is no single structure in the literature review. However, typically, like almost anything, when you do the writing, has to have the introduction, logical conclusion, and in the middle, that's kind of body, the main body section. And within that body section, you've got certain flexibility how you structure your work. But as I said, it all depends on why you're writing this literature review. So it depends on the purpose of it. Make sure that it is well structured, so it has to be logical, it has to flow from one argument to another. Make sure it's not just a simple splash of all arguments here and there, just extracts from different articles. It has to be grouped in certain logical way. Okay, so just now I want to mention a few things on the Harvard style referencing. There are different referencing styles. There are like hundreds, probably, maybe even more referencing styles. And even within the Harvard style, there are different variations of it. Why Harvard? Because it is very popular in academia. And some reports that we write, we occasionally use Harvard style referencing as well, because it's has certain benefits. So technical implementation, how do you do it? It all depends on what sort of form you use. It could be active or passive. The reference itself could be active or passive. The quotes could be direct, where you put things in brackets, or indirect. Okay, so in most of the cases, what I want to say that you will probably use this one, the passive, when the reference is passive and in indirect form. So let's say you read an article, you really liked the point, you're taking that idea, you're writing that idea in your own words, yeah, so you're changing the wording, you're not taking it as it is and copying it into your own work. You're making certain changes, and next to it you need to provide the reference to the source. Okay, in brackets you put it in that form. Okay, so first you write the author's names. If it's multiple, then you list them all the authors, and then the year of the publication. It's if it is several articles that you want to make a reference to, just separate them with the semicolon. So I would say about 90% of the cases you would want to use this approach. Okay, so passive, indirect, just making a reference, and somewhere either in the middle, if it makes sense, or more typically probably in the end of the sentence, just before the full stop, you place your reference. Occasionally you would want that article to become active in your sentence. That is here. The example is presented here. You say Jones 1996 observed that something happened. So the article itself becomes active. So you take the author from within the brackets and put it outside. So that is how you do it in terms of technical implementation of the Harvard style referencing. Now let's just talk about the direct quotes. Okay, so let's say you read something and you want to put it verbatim. Yes, you want to put it word for word like it is mentioned in the article without changing anything, because it's so important that you preserve that wording. In that case, you put that in a quotes, quotation marks, single or double, it doesn't really matter. So you put that in the quotation marks, and just before the full stop, you provide the reference, and then put the full stop. Please notice that everything is happening within one sentence. I mean, okay, it could be more sentences, but what I want to draw your attention to is you put the reference just before the last sentence. Okay, because what I'm observing, sometimes people put the full stop before the reference, and then they have to put the full stop after the reference as well. The correct implementation will have to be like that. Okay, if you want to quote something larger, more than one sentence, then typically you would want to make an indentation, italicize it. You write all your quote, put the full stop, and only after that you provide the reference. Okay, please also note that if it is a book or an article, then you have to put the page number as well. Whenever you're using the direct quote, you have to provide the page number as well. Okay, so at the very end of your literature review, you will need to write a references list where you list all your articles or whatever information sources you used. You need to list them in alphabetical order, and there is difference if you're quoting a book chapter, website, or journal article. It's slightly different, but if you're using Mendeley or any other referencing software, it typically takes care of it by itself, so you don't need to worry about that much. Okay, let's now talk about Mendeley. Okay, so first of all, you need to Google it. So Mendeley, download it, download Mendeley, install it. You will also need to create an account, and that will synchronize your desktop and your online account, so this way you will not lose anything. Okay, once you installed it, it's going to look like that. So you've got lots of folders on the left hand side. You can group them if you want. If you upload them, you can make changes on this side. So it's pretty much self-explanatory. Okay, so once you created that, you downloaded, you created an account, you logged in into your into the software with your new account. Then you open Word document. Okay, in the references tab, if you go there, you notice it's two more buttons: insert a citation and open Mendeley. Okay, so how do you actually do the referencing here? Okay, first of all, let's say I want to say the definition of radicalization is, and then you write something, and then you want to provide the reference. Okay, how do you do that? Okay, let's just open the Google Scholar. Let's say I want to reference this one. Okay, Borum. Okay, in the Google Scholar, you can click on the Cite button. In here, you click on the refman and open that with the Mendeley, and it will appear in the list here. You can make changes if it's something like incorrect. If you want to make changes to the name of the author, add few of them, or make any adjustments, you can do that, but we don't want to do that just now. Okay, insert citation, and then you can either type the name of the author if you remember it, or if you don't, just go to Mendeley and click on the author and click Cite button on the top here. It will place the reference for you. If you want to input few authors, then you just do the same thing. Hold the control button and select all authors that you want to cite. Click on it and it will place it for you in the text. Okay, once you've finished, okay, you can put the bibliography at the very end of your document, and there is a button for that, insert bibliography, and it will list all of them in alphabetical order. From time to time you will need to refresh it if you added few more authors or references in your literature review, and that's how you do it. Okay, so the other thing, like if you are not using Google Scholar, using just Google, then you will need to install something called Mendeley web importer. So that has this ability as well. It opens up the document, you press it, and then it finds the author, the year of publication, and all that information. Then you save it, and then it will appear in the Mendeley again, and you do the same thing when you input it into the Word document. That's basically it. That's how you do the referencing using Mendeley.